Hello Exiles, and this is Fusion Gaming, and welcome to my video today. Now today we're going to be doing a beginner crash course into the basics of Path of building. So if you come into this video and you know the basics and you know how to run around POB and you know what you're doing, then this video is not for you. If you have absolutely no idea about Path of building, or maybe you just need a bit of a refresher because you've been away, then we're going to quickly run through this now. So as you can see on my screen here, we have Path of building open. Now this is completely blank, so I haven't imported anything, you know, there's no characters in or anything, so I'm just going to quickly show you. So from here, if you really wanted to and you wanted to create your own build and you wanted to kind of have a play around, then first things first that I would usually advise you to do is at the top of the here is pick what character you're going to be playing, just because then that will then decide on where you would start. So let's say you was doing witch, it will then highlight here the starting point. Then from here you can then say, okay, I'm going to path this way, we're going to pick up life, we'll go up here. Let's say you were doing Armageddon brand or fire damage, rolling magma, you could go up here, then we could go like up to go and get some life, and then let's carry on going up to the fire nodes here, we'll pick this up, and then let's say we get to like Act 3 and we want to switch over to Armageddon brand, keep the fire on, then we'll go over here, we'll pick that one up, we'll come round here and we'll pick this one up here, and then we'll go up here and we will pick up the fire damage that's over there, we'll pick up the crit over here, and this is basically how you can do it. And you'll just run around this on here, and it's just, you could just play with it and it'll just kind of path out your skill tree. Now at the top here it will tell you your skill points of how many, so I've used 48 out of 123 skill points so far. Now the other thing is the 0 to 8 is the ascendancy. Now on your screen here, I'm going to zoom all the way out, as you can see there is 3 ascendancies on each part in like sections. This is all of the ascendancies apart from the Scion, who is obviously down here. Now if you want to pick an ascendancy, so let's say I wanted to go elementalist, you literally just need to just click on the nodes that you wanted to. Obviously you can change here elementalist, and then it would then highlight, and you can then say, right, I'm going to go ignite, we'll go convergence, and we'll go primal aegis. Okay, then there's your 8 of 8 spent. Does that make sense? Nice and easy. This is just if you wanted to play around and kind of have a mess around with your own build. This is just on the skill tree, so this is absolute utter basics. Okay, and at this point, you know, if you want to put on here, you can change your level and you can change this to whatever level that you are at the time. So let's say you was level, I don't know, 85, we'll do 85, there we go. And all the damage stats downside here are obviously all populated from what you have on the tree so far. As you can imagine, this is the tree section. If you go to the item section, everything is blank. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Skills wise, again, this is completely blank, but because you have picked primal aegis on the skill tree, on the ascendancy, this is obviously populated already. Okay, now there are 3 ways that you can import a build. So let's say you find a build online, there are 3 ways that you will get it. One is via a paste bin. Now obviously with a paste bin, it is all this text, so the best thing that I usually do is if you click clone and then click in here and just do Control A, copy C, so Control C. If you then go to import, and at the bottom here it says to import a build, enter URL or code. Literally just paste the code in there and it should say code is valid. Then you can just import it and it will then bring through the entire build. Okay, that's one way. Second way is via this pobb.in. Now this code will be always in the top right corner up here. Again, you can just press copy, and again we will do it again, and at this point though it will say when you import in, it will then just import the character. There we go, so there's your character. So this one is a Ranger Deadeye, and obviously all of the nodes and everything are on the right side of the tree. So that is another way to do it. A third way you'll do it is if you wanted to nick a guy's build off PoE Ninja. The code is always at the top up here, import code. Again, you would press this little button here that says copy, and again you can go back to here, paste, import, and again it will import the entire build. Now I'm going to stay with this build just for the time being, just to kind of show you as an example. So with this build, well, actually, no, what we'll do is we'll go back to this one, just because this one was a little bit easier for you. There we go. It's not so crazy. So this is for a Stormbrand build. So as you can see here, the main skill is Stormbrand, and it will tell you here all of the information and calculations that are within the build. So we have an average hit of 1.4 million. Cast time, hit rate, I'm not going to read through all of these, but as you can see here, it kind of gives you a full breakdown, and your total DPS is 6.7 million. Okay, now at the bottom here, it's then also got a breakdown of Lightning Conduit as well. So full DPS, so this is a Stormbrand / Lightning Conduit build. If you was to do this build, then you would be running at around about 17.3 million DPS. So that is both skills combined, totaled together. Okay. Now, also in here, there is an option where you can then change the skill that you want. So let's say you was wanting to change the skill and change it to something completely different, then you can do based upon obviously whatever skill you want to change it to. Also in here, you can go to skills, and in here it will then show you the gem setup. So for example, here we have the gloves. So this is the glove, so he has a 4-link setup in the gloves, and then it will list all of the gems, the gem level that it is currently at, and the quality in which the gem is at. Now, need I remind you that due to the new changes this league, there is now no anomalous or divergent or phantasmal. So these, I'm assuming, will all change to the new transfigured gems, which we're all going to be introducing in the next 7 days. Also down here, it does say that all of these are enabled, and they are included, and tick box is included within the full DPS. If you tick this, it does then tot it all up at the bottom here and gives you a grand total. Now let's just say I wanted to have a play around with this, and I think that I'm unsure whether Awakened added lightning damage is the best gem to fit in this 4-link. If you click on the line, then what it will do is it will then list all of the gems which the POB believes is best for this slot. Now, all of them that have a green tick, you can substitute with it. As you can imagine, as you go down, none of these are obviously going to be applicable. So, for example, this is saying here that if I was to switch to Arcane Surge, on the right there, if you can see, it says selecting this gem will give you an average hit of 5,000 average hit, and an increase of total DPS of 596,637. Now if I just select this on, bearing in mind our hit DPS is 17.3, let's just throw this in. There we go, it's now been changed. If you look down here, now we're at 17.7. Now, so that's not necessarily to say that that is the best option. You can have a play around with this and see what may be best. So then we could go to Chaos. Chaos is a negative, it's all in red. And obviously, this is now saying that these are all red, so we cannot use any of these. Okay, so it's a case of that you can mess around with this to your heart's content till you find a build and a gem setup that works for you. As you can imagine, all of these are all the other ones. So there's the gloves, there's your boots. It should say at the top, if the POB has been done correctly, it will drag through the relevant one. So if you wanted to, let's say, just jump to one, then obviously you're best just looking through here. So there's the weapon too, so that's the shield, there's your helmet, there's your weapon. Now with this one, he's got 3 weapons. If you notice, look, there's 1, 2, 3. That basically means that he has a 1-link, a 1-link, and a 1-link. So they are not linked. Okay, Stormbrand is in the body armor, and then conductivity is in the ring, and elemental weakness is in the ring. Now these are curses. Now it says here this is a special grouping that has been provided by the ring, which is what we're going to jump to now. So the items, when you go to the items on the left here, it will then list to you every single item that is within their build. You can highlight over it and you can see exactly what modifiers are on that item. So for example, this wand here is providing with a +1. It's adding spell damage, lightning damage, crit, double speed, double damage, and cast speed. And you can go through every single one of these and obviously have a play around with it. Now let's say, for example, we wanted to change this belt here to something different. Okay, so what I wanted to do, let's say I wanted to add a mage blood, let's just say. So obviously we all know that Mage Blood is obviously one of the biggest belts in the game. Then obviously what I can do is I can just double click on this belt, and I'm going to leave it exactly. We'll actually change the flasks obviously on it. So what we'll do is we're just going to edit it, and I'm going to change the flasks so that it is 4. There we go. So that's save. So now it's set as 4 utility flasks, and we'll add that to the build. And what we can then do is then down here you can now select Mage Blood, and what that will now do is it's now changed it, and all of the damage stats have all changed accordingly as well. As you can imagine, the build has gone, the value of the DPS has gone down, but the reason why is because the flasks are not optimized. So don't worry about that. That is basically the basics of how to do the items. And again, if you want to change on any of these, you can do. You can have a play around with them, drop down the box and change whatever it is that you want. This is everything that is in the build right now up here, and this is a list of all uniques that are in the game, and down here is a list of all the rare items and all of the bases that you would obviously want. Okay, so if you wanted to craft your own item, you can do on this part here, but again, that is a little bit more for experienced players. I'm just kind of teaching you the basics here on how to kind of navigate around PoB in general. The next tab along is the calculations. Now you're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot of information, and it is. All these numbers here, all these damage stats are all being calculated by this screen here. Okay, so it will literally break it down into every single one. Now bearing in mind, the main thing for you to look at is at the top here. It's obviously listed as Lightning Conduit. So if I was to change this to Stormbrand, as you can imagine, everything changes. If you wanted to go through this and see the nitty gritty of all of the details, then you can do. So down here it says, look, I've got a chance to shock 100%, current shock value is 60%, and my maximum shock is 65%. And I will chill them at 2%, and then it tells you that you have a shocked modifier of, a shock effect modifier of 2.69, and what happens then is this box will then appear. And again, if you're wondering how I've kept that there, if you literally just double click the box then stays there. And it then shows you down here where you're getting that shock effect from. So down here says that we're getting it from a part of the cluster tree, another part of the cluster tree, on our ascendancy, from the flask, and then another part from the ascendancy. So literally you can click on any one of these and it will tell you where these numbers are coming from. Same with your resists. So at the top you'll have your resists, it'll tell you exactly where everything is coming from. So 75 resists, and it'll tell you every single part of your gear and your skill tree, and it'll pinpoint it. Look, little red circles there, it'll show you exactly where those resists are coming from. Okay, that's just an overview there. Next thing is the configuration. Now again, if you are importing a build who has been created by someone, then technically all of this should be already filled in for you. So as you can see here, the build does use power charges, it does use frenzy charges, they have got onslaught, and all of these will be ticked if they are relevant. He has that the enemy is blinded and shocked with a 60% amount of shock. They are exposed to lightning. And then down here we have obviously all the enemy stats. Now if you wanted to find out how much damage that your build does against a pinnacle boss, there is one here. It says that, is the enemy a boss? So the answer on this is no. So if I change this to standard boss, the damage is now 5.7 million. So I'm gonna use the full DPS just for the purpose of this. So you can see here the damage has now gone down to 13.7. That is because, as it says on the left there, a standard boss has increased elemental resistances, and obviously they take they have extra resistances, and they usually have a little bit more life and things. Now let's just change this to a pinnacle boss. Pinnacle boss, we now do 12.8 million damage. As you can see there, again, they have more armor, more evasion, and obviously they have a lot more resistances. Now let's say that we were going to then increase this to Uber Pinnacle Boss, which is the biggest bosses in the game. Keep watching that 12.8 million. Look in the bottom left corner. You ready? Now it's a measly 3.8 million. That is because Uber Pinnacle bosses have the same resists, but what they have is they have a little bit more. They have what's called like a damage mitigation. So they will have 70% less damage taken by everything, every type of damage source that you can think of, and they will do a hell of a lot more damage than the previous Pinnacle bosses. So this is how you would change it. 9 times out of 10, best thing for you to do is always keep it on Guardian Pinnacle Boss. Don't leave it on No, because it will inflate your figures to the point where you will think that you've got millions and millions and millions of DPS when you don't. Okay. Other than that, there isn't much else. Always best to have a quick look in the notes. In here, these are the notes, so you can just type anything you wanted in here and you can highlight that and change the color of it, and then you can put something else in here and then highlight that and put strength on it, and basically it just changes the color of your texts. The last thing that's in here is a party mode. Now this is mainly for aura bots, but basically if you had a very good aura bot, what you could do is you could import your aura bot in here, and obviously you can import your party, and what it will then do is it will then show you all of the effects that your your auras are then applying to your team. So basically party member stats, it'll tell you all the conditions, it'll tell you all of the auras, it'll tell you all of the curses, everything that your aura bot is doing. Again, I have never really used this page because I have never been an aura bot. I had to ask somebody what this does because even I'm not aware of what it does. But basically it imports and basically it kind of brings all the information across. If you want to have a play around with that, that's something for you to obviously have a look around at. And obviously if you need a little bit more help on that, then I will do a bit of research on it. But other than that, that is pretty much the basics. The last thing that I would advise you to do sometimes is every now and then just check for update, bottom left corner. If you click that, it will then go away and check if there's an update, if there's been any bugs or if there's been any issues. Okay, and the last thing as well, so look, no update available. There we go. The last thing to do as well, which is very helpful for you, if you go down here where it says show power node, if I click this, what it'll do is it'll go away and it'll go and look at the build that I'm doing. So it'll realize that I'm doing a lightning build, and as you can see right now, it's changing the color of every single box on my screen to either blue, red, orange, pink, whatever it may be. Leave this to run. It probably takes about, depending on the speed of your PC, takes around about 30 to 60 seconds. Once it's done, it will highlight the damaging nodes, and the most damaging nodes in orange, the brightest orange on your screen will be the most amount of damage that it will increase, and the blue nodes are defensive nodes. So if you want a lot of defense, then the blue nodes will help you. The pink are usually a hybrid, so they give you a bit of damage and a bit of health, I believe. Okay, now the red, so from what I can see here, there's a very powerful one here, red one. So if you look at the top there, allocating this node will give me total DPS of 400,000, but what it says below it is if you allocate all of the nodes running up to this node, it will give me 801,000 DPS. Now that is not the brightest orange. There is a brighter one. There was a brighter one further down, if I remember rightly. Let me find it. There's one there. This is cast speed and crit. So this says that if I include this, it will give me 1.3 million. If I go over to the left over here and I highlight this one gives me 971,000, and that gives me 700,000. So from this, you can kind of see where are some nearby nodes that you could potentially pick up to get a little bit of extra damage. Also vice versa if you need a bit more defenses. So as we can see here, if we want a bit more defense, this blue one is quite a decent one. Adds a bit more life, gives more spell block, gives me a bit more fire, max fire res, max fire hits, things like that. So that is the basics. If you have any questions or you want a little bit more of an in-depth view of how that works, by the way, if you want to remove this, just untick the power box and it will put it back to how it was. That is the basics. There's nothing really much else to show you. By the way, if you do want to save it, just save. Let's just name it test and then save. Just then, if you ever want to close out of it, or if you ever want to look at another build, you will not lose this build. Okay, any questions, put them in the comments, and until we meet again, stay sane and thank you for watching.